Evil Titan.
Primeval Titan.
2 Tectonic Edge.
Oof. Get 2 Tectonic Edges with the Primeval Titan.
Harsh.
And that's
That
enough.
is game. And Love Jansa from Sweden will move into the semi-finals, defeating Christopher Wolf of Austria by 3-2. And Chris hangs his head. He gave it everything, but by 3-2, he is gone.
Let's check back in on Paulo Vitor and Jonathan Randall.
So we are going to go and see PVDDR in his 7th top 8.
I see a sideboarded Leonin Arbiter and a Jace the Mind Sculptor in play for Jonathan Randall. I see a Ratchet Bomb.
3 counters on that for Paolo. He's got a preordain going on at the moment. Looks like he's having a look at a Jace the Mind Sculptor. He's got a Stoic Rebuttal in hand, plus 1 other card. Looks like he's going to leave cards on the top. And he has a Jace the Mind Sculptor in hand, a Stoic Rebuttal, and a land. He's now going to run out Jace the Mind Sculptor, which obviously eliminates Randall's. So they've both gone away. Ratchet Bomb is at 3. Leonin Arbiter for Randall, who draws, attacks for 2. With the Leonin Arbiter, we'll bring the life scores to you as soon as we can, as you see the Brazilian there, playing the best of 3 now to move 1 step closer to Player of the Year.
You see a Spreading Seas here on a Creeping Tar Pit. We are going to see Venser, the Sojourner. So now he can bounce his Spreading Seas around and draw a card every turn.
We have another result, and I can tell you that in blue-black against vampires, vampires are gone. They are creatures of the night, not creatures of the day. It is daytime here in Japan. And Guillaume Matignon, by 3-1, has taken it over Eric Froelich. And Guillaume Matignon moves 1 step closer to potentially being Player of the Year. He must win Worlds, remember, to force a tie with Brad Nelson. Wow.
What's going on in that window show?
Go.
Memory side to memory side.
So we see a Tectonic Edge from Paula. He also landed a Baby Jace.
I can tell you that Guillaume Wafatapa has cast Memory Side and has taken Memory Side. Wafatapa, remember, 2-1 up in his quarterfinal.
So Jace Strip Mine's Jace again.
Uh-huh. But Randall again seems to be doing pretty nicely here in Game 3.
Because that Ratchet Bomb is going to be in a position to take out the Venser next turn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's Jace and Jace.
So we call it blue-white control, but it's increasingly in the big configuration. It's Planeswalker control. I mean, we were talking Randall up to 6, 7, 8. 9.
And if you watch Randall, he drew a card with Jace, and then he drew a card with Venser by removing the Spreading Seas from the game and then putting it on another land. I mean, he's very close to being able to ultimate that Venser.
So 11 Planeswalkers in Randall's deck. Now that Venser has come in, unless he's sideboarded any of them out, we don't know quite what the configuration is. DeRosa looks like he is digging. There you see him flicking through his pile. Old school swamp. So Venser the
So if he gets to untap, he gets the emblem.
Wow. Because it's +2, exile and return, -1, creature's unblockable, -8, get the emblem. Whenever you cast something, exile something. There's Inquisition from Paolo.
Took a Spreading Seas.
And it looks like 3 land and Jace the Mind Sculptor left for Jonathan Randall. If you're kind of
He
new...
has to blow up the Ratchet Bomb here.
Yes. So there it goes. Randall untaps. Looking at Baby Jace, drawing him a card, goes to 1 counter. Laying in Arbiter. Goes into the red zone, puts Paolo to 9. There's a Mind Break trap there for Randall. We know he has Jace the Mind Sculptor, so does Paolo.
Tapped Sea Chrome Coast.
Paolo with just 2 cards. The one that he now has left is Stoic Rebuttal. And Randall continues to draw Planeswalkers. He has plenty to do so. But Arbiter goes in. Just have a look at your graveyard, please. And you see Randall there looking precisely as he did at the start of this, around about an hour ago. Certainly unfazed by going 1-0 down, which he kind of expected to do in some ways.
Sure. Interestingly, the 2 control mirrors are still ongoing.
That's funny how that often works out.
Yeah.
At the end of this game, we will go back to Guillaume Wafatapa against Yaklowski. If they're still going, they may head for a game 5 with Wafatapa currently 2-1 up. Another into play tapped. As we look out from the booth here beside the main stage, so many great things were here at Worlds. Japan's always a little bit special, a little bit exotic, and we've had some fantastic sort of public event action, and in particular, all the kind of peripheral things here have been just amazing. I think of Akuba, particularly the 3D artist. That is just one of the most spectacular Magic-related things I've ever seen.
He has a magnificent 3D Jace sculpture.
Say again.
Sounds like we have a result on the back table.
Indeed we do. A second memory side from Guillaume Wafatapa takes away Grave Titans from Lucas Yaklowski, and the Czech man scoops. So Guillaume Wafatapa will advance to the semi-final and will face Lova Jansa in that one. So the 2 Frenchmen on opposite sides of the brackets are both through to the semi-finals.
There are only Control decks and Eldrazi left in this event.
Wow.
Here's an Elspeth TRL from Jonathan Randall. We're going to see a Stoic Rebuttal from a more jubilant rebuttal, I suspect, from Jonathan.
One of the toughest skills to master in Magic, not just for control players, but for everyone, is that of patience. And Randall is an incredibly patient player. I've watched him multiple times this weekend, and it isn't about taking time to think. This is about, you know what? You want to counter it? Yep. Okay, you've countered it. You're at 5. You've still got a Lay in Arbiter there. I'm still in good shape.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in a counter spell war over that and give you a window where something crazy might happen.
I would rather spend my mana protecting my threat.
Unlike game 1, which we saw in its entirety, this time it's Paolo who has to do stuff. Randall would draw a card off Jace.
Yeah, that Jace has been there since turn 3, so he's up so many cards.
In comes the Arbiter. Paolo falls to 3. Randall has all the gas in the world in his hand. There's an end of turn Doomblade for the Lay-in Arbiter. Now this is something you might decide to have a little discussion about.
Randall needs to think.
We know that Paolo has only 1 card. Randall is counting up the mana, thinking, if I debate this with you, will I still have mana at the end of the day? Well, he's going to go Mind Break Trap. And Paolo just has a little grimace and goes, yep, okay. You see at the top of your screen that Jace Bellerin with 2 counters on. It's been going up and down, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, all the way. And that is what is causing Paolo to bite his lip right now.
Yeah.
Because we are pretty close to 2-1 to Jonathan Randall in the last of the quarterfinals.
Excellent. Can we pull up the top Europeans, please?
DeRosa is on 1. And there's a Celestial Colonnade. It's an additional... Oh, and that's going to fall to a Tectonic Edge.
And roundabout now... Oh, he's going to make him play. Pass it on.
Upkeep, Doomblade.
Doomblade.
Negate.
Negate.
That's good.
And that is game 3. And in the front row, Dan Gardner, former national champion himself, part of the team, punches the air as Randall leads 2-1.
So while they sideboard, I think I've come to a rather distasteful portion of our webcast, Richard.
Oh, yes.
I feel that it's come time for me to pay a debt
Okay, off you go then.
to you.
Thank you.
You, sir, are a fine gentleman.
And I'd have loved to call you a scholar, but you're clearly not. BDM and I, we were at Grand Prix Toronto, and we had a little discussion, and I was on our good friends GG's Live, chatting about actually playing at an event, which was a great privilege, because I don't get to do that very much, and boy, do I love playing Magic. And I was chatting to them, and they said, you know, what are teams looking like for Worlds? And I said, well, yep, obviously there are some good teams around, but it's not a stellar year. There aren't 12 teams that are stacked with pros. It isn't going to be like that. And I said quietly that the UK team were pretty good, and they were very close to the best team we could assemble if we were kind of handpicking them. We got multiple national champions in the team. There weren't many players who legitimately looked at the team and went, oh, it would have been so much better if I'd been on it as a quality level. And so BDM and I had a little discussion in Toronto, and I said, you know what, I'll just go for a sporting wager that Britain will finish a little bit higher than the US, and it has been back and forth all weekend. It's been very, very tight. Yeah, we won.
And had I met Jono before making that wager, I might have been a little more hesitant to do so. He's been a pleasure to watch. He's clearly a terrific player.
And he's our alternate. He isn't even on the team. He couldn't make the team. That's how good we are. Top 8 of Worlds couldn't even make the team. But seriously, there are a good group of guys around the UK, and you know, everything goes in cycles. Right now, we've got the resurgence of American Magic, which is definitely a theme of this year. We've seen the Japanese maybe falling away. We're going to look at assorted top 10s through the weekend. 6 Europeans, by the way, in the top 8 here. Well, 1 North American, obviously Eric Froelich, and then Paolo Dama de Rosa. I wonder if we can get a look at the top Europeans as the finishing list. We've sort of put all these together for you as we've crammed all our different bits of paper around. Basically, as I say, here we are, the top Europeans. You see, Lova Jansa second, the 2 Guillaumes third and fourth, Yaklowski 6, Wolf 7, Randall 8. Those, of course, are dependent on what happens now. But then... 2 unfortunate tales, Kopech and Elfgren, we've discussed already, but nonetheless terrific finishes, top 16 in a Pro Tour, no slouch. And then...
Talking to Mateus after the event, he said, if I'd known coming into the event that I was going to top 16, I would gladly, make that deal with the devil. Right? Yep. A top 16 at a World Championships is an amazing accomplishment. You or I... would love to have that on our resume.
Bite your hand off. Yeah. And it's only because he led the field. And just as Irvin Tormos did, he was 11-1 a couple of years back and didn't make it in. But those bottom 2, Tony Portolan and Stepan Sušić, I knew I was going to get that wrong, but both from the same country, HRV. Now, that is Croatia or Hrvatska. That's where the HRV comes from. And to find 2 Croatians in the top 10 Europeans, that is a tremendous achievement. And one of the things we love about Worlds is there are so many great stories from all around the world.
Absolutely.
Like the Argentina team. You're thinking, don't know anything about the Argentina team. I said, I don't think they've got a lot of grounds for optimism. Okay? That's what I said. You know, you've got to be fair, you've got to call it as you see it. But they did not come dead last of the national teams. They were second to last. You know? So they beat someone. And they can go, we weren't last. They go home and they went, we didn't come last, we did okay. All right, and next year, well, there's 48 places to work your way up towards maybe a Sunday webcast.
Something to be optimistic about.
Absolutely. You know, the only way, well, not quite the only way is up, as it were. So we're heading for Game 4 of Paula Vida Dama de Rosa against Jonathan Randall. And a reminder of the significance of this beyond merely the top 8. We have Paula Vida Dama de Rosa trying to make Player of the Year. In order to do so, he must win the next 2 games against Jonathan Randall. He must then win his semi-final, which we now know will be against Guillaume Matignon. If he does that, he's Player of the Year. Matignon already in the semi-finals. If he can beat Paolo in the semi-final, and then a finalist, which will be either Guillaume Wafatapa or Lova Jansa, then Matignon will tie with Brad Nelson for Player of the Year. Meanwhile, in the Rookie of the Year race, Lova Jansa is still alive, and I can see him just outside. Hi, Lova. Congratulations. Well done. With assorted Swedish superstars, Kenny Oberg standing by. I imagine this is the Swedish enclave for semi-final matchup technology, because they already know it's Guillaume Wafatapa coming their way after lunch. Have a good lunch. Plenty of calories, plenty of blood sugar intake. That's my advice on that one. So Paolo needs 2 wins. Nelson already knows that Matignon's through to the semis, so there will be at least one more round where Brad cannot be crowned as Player of the Year. But he would dearly love to see Paula Vida Dama de Rosa gone here, even though he's tremendous friends.
Yep. Even he's working the voodoo doll. He's obviously working it very hard.
Soon is the time for Paolo to lose if you're Brad Nelson. We are underway in Game 4, which Paolo opens with an island. How important is going first in this match? Not particularly relevant?
You know, I think it's always nice to have your that little land advantage. But I mean, a lot of times these games come down to cards, so
the extra card.
The extra card probably evens that out over the long course of a game. No one's going to come out to an early lead.
So there's Duress, 4 land on one side, a double Jace the Mind Sculptor, and Negate is the hand for Randall, who's opened with Celestial Colonnade tapped.
You see Paulo writing down all the cards, so he doesn't have to remember them over the course of the game.
That, by the way, was a top tip brought to you in association with Brian David Marshall and Paula Vida Dama de Rosa. Write it down. It's a really, really good way to avoid mistakes in Magic.
And then as he sees those cards, he'll cross them off, and just sort of sculpt the information he has about Jonathan's hand. He chooses the negate.
Yep, that's fine, says Randall. Now, Randall, of course, has got to be feeling good about life, having started extended day on 22 points and then having to go 6-0. Chatted to him yesterday morning. He said, I'm playing fairies. I said, look, it's a perfectly fine choice. You'll beat some people with fairies. And it turns out that he actually beat a lot of good players.
I saw that you did a deck tech with him last night on the fairies deck. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. How did that turn out?
It was good. I mean, we were sort of chatting also about the UK community and how he's doing. But he beat Brian Kibler down the stretch. He beat Bertil Elfgren in the last round. Earlier in the weekend, he beat David Ochoa and Yuya Watanabe. He drew with Gaudenis Vidugris, beat Robert Jurkovic, beat Brian Cowell, beat Jan Massacre, beat AJ Saka. He had a pretty decent list, and to be honest, not just, I mean, it's always a great achievement when you make the top 8, but it's fair to say he had a much tougher road than Paolo, for example, in terms of opponent quality through the weekend. He had some serious roadblocks in the way of getting to this position, and now he has to try and make it count against one of the game's greatest.
Well, one of the things I thought was interesting about, and Paulo's landed a baby Jace, by the way. It's his turn to go, one for me, one for me, one for you, one for me. One of the things I found impressive about Jonathan is he did a video several weeks ago for a British website about doing a deck tech on blue-white control. I mean, this was the deck he's been tuning and tweaking and working on this deck for this event for some time.
That's right. And blue-white control is something that Dan Gardner, the previous national champion, has played to distraction in multiple formats, so there was a real pool of control knowledge. And it's interesting that they've chosen blue-white, which by most conventional wisdom was the deck that was dead because blue-black was just what you played if you were going to play control. Mystifying Maze in play. Looks like 6 cards apiece. There's a mana leak for Paolo. Here comes Leonin Arbiter for Randall, for which mana leak would work, and it looks like that's exactly what Paolo's going to do, unless, of course, Randall has mana leak back the other way.
I'm assuming he brought the Leonin Arbiters in largely just as creatures. You know, just to have an additional threat.
A guy, 2.
Get rid of those ousts.
Yeah. Continued to feel that bouncing Seagate Oracle wasn't the value.
They both draw.
Let's both draw. There's Randall. I wouldn't want to be sitting across from him. I just have no clue what he was thinking. Preordain at the end there, which is what we're going to see run out. No problem, says Paolo. That's not going to be killing me.
And interesting, you see the Mystifying Maze there.
Mm-hmm.
He can't, he can't, normally maybe he could play a land and attack with his Celestial Colonnade to try to deal with Jace, but, if he taps out to do that, Paolo's pretty happy to tap out and Mystifying Maze that.
And then gets to untap and off to the races, potentially. So the Preordain has resolved successfully for Randall. But he knows full well, from the fact that he had Jace Bellerin in play last game, that can be a game winner. Paolo has a Spell Pierce, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Grave Titan. There's a Swamper there. Randall is going to go for a matching pairs of his and hers Jaces, which one presumes Paolo is going to have an argument about. But again, he's taking his time just to make sure that's what he wants to do. Maybe he doesn't have that choice. Looking at 6 cards.
I think he's holding a Mind Break Trap.
Mm-hmm.
But another Jace, he can also let it go, untap, play another Jace.
Cards.
How many cards? Yeah, he shuffles Mindbreak Trap to the front of the proverbial booster, and then sends it away looking at Spell Pierce. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mindbreak Trap. And Randall says, sure, off you go. Bonus card from Jace. Preordain.
Nope.
Oh, Inquisition instead. Inquisition of Kozilek. What do we got there? It's full-on Planeswalker action, double Jace TMS, and Gideon Jura.
Okay.
Interesting. He could have actually played that differently, right? He could have played the Spell Pierce.
Yeah.
And held on to the Mindbreak Trap, but by doing it the other way, he gets to do stuff on his turn and then leave the mana open. He knows that if he's going to tap out for a Jace or tap out for a Gideon, he can